Hey YouTube, so in this video I wanted to cover a common question I get from US businesses with respect to 1099s and foreign contractors, right? So if you're a business owner, you're familiar with having to file 1099s. If you hire somebody that lives and works in the US, right, you get a W-9 from them, you have their social security number, and if you make payments to them more than $600 during the year, you give them a 1099. But the question, and it's a good one, is, well, what happens if I hire somebody that's not living and working in the U.S.? Do I still have to give them a 1099? And so what I want to do is go through the rules around 1099 reporting and withholding taxes, and then I'll cover briefly the Form 1042-S, right? So the Form 1042-S is kind of like the foreign equivalent to a 1099. Okay, so let's start at the top and work our way down here. I just have one slide in front of us, and that should cover all the material we need. So some of the basics here, right? So the 1099 NEC, that's NEC means non-employee compensation. It's filed by U.S. businesses that make payments to independent contractors in the ordinary course of their trade or business. Personal payments are not reportable, right? So only businesses that make payments to individuals or companies that are doing some type of work for them in connection with their business have to file a 1099. So let's look at two examples here, one where you have to report and then one where you don't, right? So we have John here. He's the owner of a marketing company. And in the office, one of the employee bathrooms has a leak, right? So he hires a plumber to come to the company building and fix all the issues. The total fee for the services is $1,500. In this case, John would report that payment made to the plumber, right? Because he hired a contractor, paid that individual in the ordinary course of his trade or business. John's going to be deducting the repair costs on his profit and loss and on his tax return as a repair and maintenance expense, right? So in that case, John's operating a business. He hired somebody to help him with something, paid him, needs a 1099 NEC. Here's an example where he wouldn't have any reporting, right? So John owns his home in his personal name. He and his family live there, right? The home's only used for personal purposes, right? That's his primary residence. The bathroom in the master bedroom starts to flood, and so John hires a plumber to visit the residence and fix all the issues. The total fee is, again, $1,500. In this case, John's not reporting the payments because he did not make the payment in the ordinary course of his trade or business, right? It was personal, right? It's a payment for his personal home. So John's not going to be taking a tax deduction anywhere, right? Because you can't deduct personal improvements, to your property, right? So there's no reporting there on his tax return. Now, obviously, the plumber, they have to pick up the income on his side, and he pays tax on it. But from John's perspective, no deduction, no 1099 reporting, right? So now let's look at what happens if you're paying a contractor that lives and works outside the U.S. Well, the first step is always get a W-8, right? This is just the same kind of process as if you hire a U.S. contractor, you get a W-9. W-8s are for non-U.S. persons, right? So there's a couple variants. W-8 Ben is for individuals. W-8 Ben A is if you're hiring a foreign corporation. And then a W-8 IMY would be if you're making payments to a foreign partnership, right? So get that W-8 first. The second piece here is confirm that the contractor actually lives and works outside of the U.S. and they're not a U.S. person. And here's why this is important. If we read sections 861 and 862, it covers sourcing of income under U.S. tax code, right? So income from personal services is sourced to where the work is being completed and performed, right? So if we have a contractor that's living and working outside the U.S., that is foreign source income. Now, you might be asking, well, it's coming from a U.S. company. A U.S. company is paying a non-U.S. person. If it's coming from a U.S. company, is it U.S. source income? And the answer is no, it's not. When we look at payments for compensation, again, it's sourced to where the person is doing the work, lives and works, right? So this is the second important piece here, is you want to make sure that this person is living and working outside the U.S. because then it's foreign source income, it's not U.S. source. Now, here's the last piece and the answer to the question here, right? Payments made to the foreign contractor aren't subject to any withholding taxes or reporting if they're payments for compensation, right? So again, it's a foreign contractor living and working outside the U.S., so it's going to be foreign source income. Don't have to worry about withholding taxes, and there's no 1099 reporting, right? So foreign persons do not get Form 1099s. It's only U.S. individuals and U.S. companies. So Form 1099, and just so I highlight here really quickly, this fact pattern applies to payments for compensation, right? If you're a non-U.S. person and you're receiving a payment for, let's say, interest or dividends, then the sourcing rules are different. But in this case, if we're talking about payments for services, so if you hire somebody to do a project remotely and they live and work in Australia, that's going to be foreign source income. So 1099 reporting, the rules are found in Internal Revenue Code section 6041, and then plainly the section says information returns must be made by every person engaged in a trade or business who makes payments aggregating 600 or more in any taxable year to another person in the course of its trade or business. So effectively, that's the precise language that's used in the code, just kind of reiterates what I said up there on line 1. So here's where we get into some more of the meat on the details, right? So in Treasury Reg 1.6041-4A, it says in there very clearly that information returns are not required for payments made to a foreign payee, right? So that is the 1099 information return exclusion for foreign payees, right? And then in Treasury Reg section 1.1461-1B1, this covers Form 1042 reporting. So Form 1042 and Form 1042S have to be filed if the U.S. company had to withhold taxes under Chapter 3. So what's Chapter 3? Chapter 3 withholding covers U.S. source payments to non-residents where there was a tax imposed and you had to withhold. So again, if there's U.S. source income being paid to non-residents and you had to withhold tax, then this might be an issue where you need to file Form 1042 and 1042S. So an example of that would be, let's say, U.S. source dividends, right? If you paid a U.S. source dividend to a non-resident shareholder, there might be withholding taxes, and in that case, you would report the dividend payment and the withholding tax on 1042 and 1042S. But again, in this, the answer to our question posed at the start of this video was, do you issue a 1099 NEC to a foreign worker that's being compensated for personal services, right? They're doing a project for you remotely. The answer is no, right? No 1099 NEC reporting, no 1042S reporting because it's foreign source income and there was no withholding tax. Okay, so that covers everything. I hope that was clear. Certainly a lot of moving pieces, but I hope you enjoyed the video. You found it useful. Of course, if you have any questions, please leave me a comment below. Happy to answer any I can. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Thank you.